2, 3. Hello, everyone. My name is Tuan. I am a math professor here at Triton College. I want to welcome you to today's presentation in regards to AI use and syllabus in higher education. Today, we're going to be looking and discussing some of the things that if you're going to be using AI, because it is the biggest thing right now, especially in most classes, and how students are utilizing it, but also how to incorporate this in your syllabus so that your students have an understanding and a guideline of how and why they will be using it. And let me explain the how and why. The how in this case is whatever system or AI system that you're going to be using, give them some type of parameters and guidelines on how to use it correctly. If you're not going to use it, and let me emphasize not, then you need to be transparent with your students and let them know. I have individuals who've asked the question, how can you see the difference between that? Well, there is a difference between looking at AI, students who use an AI, I should say, and students who do not. Students who use AI assume that you as instructors, or all of us as instructors and educators, don't see the difference, especially if it's writing. Because you have a student who's really, really bad at writing, but then all of a sudden, after one class session, because you had them take the assignment home, they're an expert. They're flying high on this writing assignment. You're like, this is really good. Not knowing that they used an AI to assist them. Now, AI is great in assistance, especially in higher education. There's been a lot of talk about how to use it correctly and how not to use it. So today, we're going to talk about those things. So first, let's talk about how this presentation. We're going to be looking at how AI is reshaping higher education. It is reshaping it in the sense that it can be used as a learning tool, but it can also be used as a personal guiding tool. And it's the difference between learning tool and guiding tool. Learning tool is for those individuals who need assistance because English is still their second language, and they just need some breakdown of whatever the class that they're going through with us and some of the language that we're using. It is also to enhance their learning in this case as well too. And how can that happen? You can break down things that we as instructors don't have time to do so in the classroom. We also talked about the ethical and the practical use in your syllabus, and that is how you are going to allow your students to use it or not use it. And then also some strategies for you and your students to learn and how to utilize it in the classroom. What is AI in education? Well, it is artificial intelligence in this case, and is looking at how things that we before use Google or any internet search to type in some information and give us an idea of what we're talking about. But it also, in this case, is a learning tool because AI is rapidly growing. It's growing every day to learn exactly what we're doing, and not just in education, but in the work field. And most companies in this case are now want students to learn or know how to use an AI system. And you may be seeing those commercials as well too. We have, in this case, like chatbots for all of you that are there to support our students. Now, we here at Triton do not have that tool yet, but there are about 4 or 5 out of 100 institutions around the United States that are implementing that, and they use that in the sense of a secondary tool to help students when they're overworked with their advisors, and their advisors are booked up and they just don't have the time to meet with students. A chat box can actually communicate with the students. There's some ethical things that they have to consider, and we have to consider as well too, especially FERPA law. We also have AI where it could be, it's an adaptive. In the math class, which in this case for all of you is Math 65, we use an AI system which is called Alex. It's adaptive learning. It helps us as instructors to know what students don't know, and we can actually advance them to the level that they need to get there. You also can use it as an automated grading tool. Now, within that, you have to put in the parameters. We do have that installed into Blackboard for all of you. You can use that. It just needs to know exactly your grading parameters that you're going to set up. And then last, it can use as a plagiarism detection. There are different AI tools out there, such as Turnitin. We have Safe Assign. that are AI tools that will help students and help us to know if the student has been plagiarized or is plagiarizing their work. But there are also AI tools out there that will help you to understand if a student used an AI tool to do their work. Yeah, some students do not know this. When you copy and paste from an AI, there's a code in the background. The other AI system can see that. They don't know it. They just think they're copy and pasting, and it's fine, but it's still considered a form of plagiarism if you do not underline exactly what you're telling them to do. So benefits in AI in the classroom, yes, it will help us as instructors, it helps students in this case, and I'm thinking of our students, not only our students with second languages, but it also, since we're looking at adaptability, it helps our students who understand material that we put in the system or put in our syllabus, but also put into the course itself. Especially if you have a student who's second language in psychology, they're taking a psychology class. The words or the vocabulary that is being used is still a little advanced for them. So the AI can break it down for them to understand it even more. And yes, we do have one professor in the psychology department is using that in the classroom. It can help personalize learning pathways. Again, I use AI, which is Alex, in my Math 65 class, and it helps me to understand exactly the material that my students need to get to the next level. Excuse me. It also gives us some immediate feedback, especially when you are in a situation where you're looking at tons and tons of projects. I do this in my Math 102 class, and I have to read everything, but it gives immediate feedback, and especially when you set up the parameters within Blackboard to say, well, this is not exactly what your professor is looking for. Maybe you need to go back and look over it. It increased accessibility, which is what we're looking at for here at Triton College, but and also we have to comply by April, April of next year. So AI can help you as instructors to say exactly what things that are not accessible to your students to understand. PDF files, for example, maybe we have to go back and change that. And there's AIs that can help you do that as well. It is also a data-driven tool. We here at Triton College, we use that to understand exactly what our students need. And it's that. Again, we are not using that yet here at Triton College, but it can be used for all of you to understand. It may not be used in a testing center as yet, but it is also used in other departments, not here at Triton College because still working on those things, but it is used at other institutions. But there's the ethical guidelines that you have to set behind it to make sure that it does not violate FERPA law. And then last but not least, it can help us reduce our workload. How many of you in this case, you get to the beginning of the semester, you're creating your syllabus, and you're like, oh my God, I need to create an assignment for one of your classes, and you're not sure exactly what assignment you want to create. The AI can help you with that. In fact, I have done that. In my Math 102 class, every semester, I never, ever, ever, ever use the same project. So I put into AI to give me a project related to the topic that they're talking about, and then I go in and make some modifications for it. But it all gave me some ideas that I was like, I never thought of doing something like that. Or like my last project, my class was doing a video. And I was thinking, I know I want them to do a video conversation of logic and mathematics, but I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to set it up. So I went into AI, typed it in exactly what I could do with the AI video of logic and mathematics. It gave me 9 different ideas. I went in and changed everything that I want my students to do because based on what I want. But it did help me because I couldn't think of something to do. But that's what it is there for. Challenges and the risks. Well, the open discussion with challenges. Do we allow our students to use AI? Well, the challenge in that is that yes and no, you can, but how do we know if they're using it correctly? The risk is now we have to make sure that we look at their writing abilities for it. Yes, when I say that, and I use my student as an example, when I gave a project, my student, it wasn't what I was looking for. And when I say that for all of you, I wasn't sure. I consulted with my dean. I said, this looks like something AI produced. And I just could not put my finger on it. So my dean at the time, which was Jeanette, told me to create 19 different questions to go back and ask the student because I'm like, it's just not what I was looking for. Well, the student did admit that he used an AI. Now, with that, the charts that were created, the AI did exactly what the student told it to do, but the student failed to follow my guidelines. So the AI didn't know that. Second, I looked at the writing. My class for Math 102, they have to do some writing, which is part of their discussion. It went from a 3 to a 9. And I'm like, that cannot happen within the span of 2 weeks. So that was me thinking something is wrong with that. Last but not least, the student used 19 different words in vocabulary that A, was never discussed in the class, and B, he didn't even know what they were. Tuan, how did you realize that? I had a conversation with him, and then I had him to read what he wrote, and I told him, explain this to me. He couldn't because he didn't write it. So there are some risks, especially when we talk about the academic integrity of it. That's where we need to make sure that we're explaining to our students, if they are allowed to use an AI system in your class, you have to be transparent with them and say, okay, here's what you're allowed to use and why, and here are the reasons not to. There is a conversation at Columbia College that has their AI discussion. They use the stop light system. Stop, red, means they cannot use an AI in the class whatsoever. Caution, yellow, means that the instructor has the right to say, yes, but here's the guidelines that are set up for it. Or green, go, you have the right, in all due respect, to use it whatever you want to. However, here are the guidelines as well too. And talking to several colleagues at Columbia College, most of them are in the yellow stoplight, or I should say stop signal or traffic signal. They're cautious because they don't want students to just utilize it and overutilize it without learning what they're supposed to do within the course. We as instructors have to do exactly the same thing. So think about your own ability and what you know about AI before you allow your students to use an AI in the classroom. Then, well, privacy and the data security. Did you know that anytime that you put something in the AI, it is calculating that information and adding it to its database? Some people didn't know that. Students don't know that. So if they're using personal information, not knowing that the AI is collecting that information, that's why you have to give them some parameters and saying what information they can use and what information that is not acceptable within the AI system. Questions? Not yet. We as faculty need to have some training in doing so. So today, for all of you, welcome and talking about how AI is being used, but also train yourself or go to different conferences or workshops of how to use AI effectively in your classroom. This is just to talk about your syllabus, but to use it effectively, A, you need to know how it is being used as a student. B, you need to know how to enter the data in or enter any parameters that you're going to have your students do. And last but not least, understand which AI that you're going to have your students use. There are tons of AIs out there. And by definition, this morning, it said there was 200 more that's being developed. Now, by the end of the week, we may have up to 1,000. Now, again, we may not see all of them. We may not interact with them, but they're rapidly growing. Because, for one, that my colleagues didn't know in business, businesses want students to know how to use AIs. In fact, there's an AI HR system that is being developed to help HR managers in their departments, not to reduce the overload, but to reduce the number of people they have.
So you mentioned that you would get like some examples from AI to help you with some of the project examples.
Correct.
And then modify them.
I use the AI to give me examples of an idea that I put in there. So in first, I put in, I want to develop a project that deals with a video in logic of mathematics. That's all I gave the AI. The AI gave me 9 different ideas coming back. I went through all 9 of them and say, okay, this is the one I want to do. And I went and created the other parameters for it. It only gave me an example in this case because I didn't ask it to create a project. I just wanted ideas of a project. Gotcha. So, yeah. So again, and I remember talking to my associate dean, Michael about it as well too. I created everything, but I was like, I want this, I want to do something. So I just had the AI just give me an idea of what to do. But anything that I gave to my students, I told my students I created everything because it was me, but the idea did come from AI, but that was it, just the idea, not anything of the parameters of what I want them to do, how I want them to design it, how they're going to do in their conversation. And I also remember talking to my friend Brent about in his videos that he was doing for his class. And I got more ideas and said, this is what I want them to do in the video that I want them to do in my class. So it was a lot of things, and I do thank both of them. There was a lot of things that I was listening to other people, and I was like, oh, okay, I want to use that. So I changed everything, not as much as the AI told me what to do, but I just wanted an idea. That's all I wanted it for. So for me, I used it as a helping tool because, like I said, for all of you, and I tell my students, I never use the same projects every year. But before AI, I was like, okay, now I got to start in the beginning of the semester and think of a project, because for my class, they have to do a total of 3 projects. First, it was only 1, but now the department changed it. So I was like, okay, I got to think of a project, Now, last 2 semesters ago, when it became to 3 projects, I was like, oh my God, now I got to think of double the work for each semester. And I don't like using the same project because I know students talk to each other. I know students love to share information. And I know that students say, oh, you know what? I took his class. He's going to use this one, because we have colleagues who don't change anything. So I tell my students at the beginning of the semester, if you had a friend or a lover that took this class, I do not use the same project whatsoever, because the projects are designed so I can see what you've learned from the class. That's my objective, but I'm not teasing any of my colleagues, but it's my objective to see what they've learned, but I also add on to it as the semester goes about. And when I say I add on to it for all of you, is because I talk to my students and find out what majors they are taking into the class. So I start adding more to it because I want them to use it as their platform. I learned this in my math class, and it relates to my discipline or my major. Did that help? Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So here in your syllabus for all of you, integrate the following information. Integrate some guidelines that or safeguards that you want your students to understand. Make sure that you create your AI syllabus, or clearly state within your syllabus the AI purpose, its reasoning why you would like them to use it or not use it, and then also set the tone for your class so that they understand. We at Triton College do not have an overall AI policy for all of you, but it is up to us as an instructor, because it did state from our vice president, it's not allowed, but it's up to the instructor to make the guidelines and those safeguards of how you want to use it in your class. A lot of us may not know that. So before you set the tone and say they're allowed to use it, make sure you understand how you want them to use it first. Next, thinking about what tools that are going to be acceptable. And when I say tools, I think of AI as a tool. All of us have heard of ChatGPT, number one that most students go to, but there's others out there. So make sure you investigate and saying what type of AI tools you would like them to use. For example, in math, we use Pearson, which is my math lab. Pearson has an AI built into my math lab, and it's only for my math lab. With our conversation from Pearson, they said it is in there, but the instructor has the ability to turn it on or turn it off. So I leave it on. However, I tell my students that they utilize AI in my math lab, it only stays in my math lab. It's not going to go outside my math lab. It's not going to go to the internet. It's not going to go to the next school over. It only stays within the institution, which is Triton. And it only stays within the class. I'll use Math 85. It only stays within the parameters that I wanted to stay in of the math that we're going over. That's it. However, there are systems out there that can't do that. In fact, one of my colleagues at Lake County, they have an AI in their math class as well too. But the AI they have in their math class actually is broad. It goes anywhere. It looks for any resources for the students. And I'm like, but Pearson said, nope, we created to stay within our system and only in our system. So make sure you do some investigating work. I know that ChatGPT, I know we don't want to make it seem like it's the devil, but it is the #1 that's being used. Can it utilize for math, speech, history? Yes, it can be utilized for anything. But you need to make sure that your students understand if they're not allowed to use it, explain the reason why. Because if not, we were children before too. I think we all are. We are somebody's child. We'll go behind the back and do it anyway. And think, they're not going to catch it. They'll be surprised. They can be caught. Also, in this case, make sure your rules and requirements for using it align it to your learning objectives that you have within your course. So for my class, I'll use my class as an example. They're allowed to use it when they do their project to give them assistance on developing the conversational tool. And when I say the conversational tool, it's because they have to do a speech. And I shouldn't say speech, they have to do a presentation. But the presentation in the video, I gave them 3 questions that I'm looking for. But I may have some students who don't know how to answer those questions. So I say you can use the AI to help you to address the question, but I am still looking for your creativity within it. So that's what I mean by it can be used as a learning tool, but I also gave them parameters and saying what they cannot and can use. All right. Oh, and encourage your students to be responsible. This one actually came from several institutions because we realized that some of our students think that we will not catch them, because we all know about plagiarism. We know that plagiarism from copying somebody's paper, plagiarism from using somebody else's work, plagiarism from copying from a textbook or some type of resource book. We know those things. But students may not think that AI is being plagiarized because it was them that actually typed in the topic or whatever. It was their mouse that copied and pasted. It was their thought, but it's still being plagiarized. So make sure you have them to be responsible for it. If you didn't know, the American Psychological Association, APA, had came out how to cite from AIs. MLA, which is the Modern Language Association, for my English instructors, does have it where they can go in and cite it as well too. So there is rules that I'm not sure about the Chicago style because that's not the #1 that we'll use, but it's probably in there as well too. But if not, there's resources that you can go to, which I'll have at the end for all of you, that you can go to and look at any resources to say exactly how they need to cite it. All right. So here are some additional challenges and risks as well too. Discussion on resilience on using AI by our students, because our students think that I can use it for everything. No, we got to be the parent. We got to put some guidelines in there. We really do. We also have to discuss with them the academic integrity that's behind it as well too. Remember, students in this case may not think it's plagiarism. They may not think that it is dishonesty. But for some institutions, I'm going to say that 50-50, some do and some don't. Some institutions believe it is still academic dishonesty. And some institutions say we'll allow it as long as they cite it correctly. But again, we as instructors have to make sure we put that in our syllabus so that we, in this case, have a challenge from one of our students. And no, I'm not picking on any of our deans whatsoever. I think someone asked a question. I'm not picking on our deans, but if a student in this case we challenge the student, it is our chairs and our deans that are stand behind us, but they need to know exactly what we put in our syllabus to say what the student cannot and can do. So we have to make sure. In fact, when I do my projects for all of you, it's not only in my syllabus, it's also laid out on the project as well too. That's just me. Because if a student comes back and says, well, I didn't know I couldn't use AI, it says it's line 3 on the syllabus and it's line 7 on the project. All right. And did I go backwards? The privacy, I think it did go backwards. Okay, maybe it did. All right. The integrity of AI in our syllabi. We want to make sure that we clearly state our AI policies. Now, again, the policy that we have from our institution that was given to us by Vice President Campos, that is one. But if you have your own classroom policy, because it is states in our policy, it is up to us as the instructors. If the institution says and grants that we as instructors can utilize it, the institution may say overall, no, but it's up to your instructor or us as instructors or faculty members, we can make that decision. Then we need to clearly state that in our syllabi. And again, going through my leadership classes, and this is not to pick on our leaderships whatsoever, it is their job to stand behind us, and they can't stand behind us if we don't have it in our syllabus to say, we told them not to use it. Because then our deans in this case can't help us. And again, it's not to tease them whatsoever. Align any AIs that you're going to be using along with your course objectives. I think this is very important because we all teach different disciplines and subject matters. For me as math, I went back to say, okay, exactly how in my liberal arts math class, how the AI can help them. So again, in my project, like I said, I laid out everything in the sense that how they can utilize it. So I was transparent with everything. So I didn't have a student come back, you never said this, read page 2. Or my favorite, well, the AI just created the graphs for me. Fantastic. Read page 3 where it says AI in graphs and charts. Why? Because most students, they get a project, they do what they're supposed to, but they forget to read all the guidelines we put down. But that's just, I encourage, in this case, I know, and it may be on the record, that my department says they are not allowed to use AI. Yes, but I still think of it as a learning tool for them. So I do give them the idea that it can be used if they're not sure how to approach something. But they still have to cite it regardless of what they do. Here's some sample syllabus language for all of you that I incorporated from some colleagues of mine. 1, students may use AI for brainstorming and drafting ideas, but students must produce an original work. This is looking at a ChatGPT and Grammarly as well too. In this one, this actually came from my syllabus because I actually tell students they're allowed, but if I know that their language went from a 2 to a 9, you need to cite it. Tuan, how would you know that? For my class, they have to do thread discussions. So I know the thread discussions are not really that long, but they also do a writing sample in classroom. So I can see where the difference is. Again, our English department are wonderful in that. We, in our other disciplines, we have to find different ways to approach it as well too. My way was to have them do something in the classroom, which in this case was on the first day of class. They did some writing. Then towards the middle of the semester, they'll do another writing sample because it's in class. And then towards the end, they're doing another one. So I can actually see the progress and see if it's going to be bad or good. And that was my challenge for my student who said they used AI, because I noticed the language, their vocabulary, and their writing style changed. AI-generated contents must be cited appropriately. Again, this is just some language that you can use within your syllabi to make sure that your students understand that if they're allowed to use it, that you are going to be checking on that. Again, we do have individuals in this case, and we know our students more than anybody, those students who will and those students who won't. In fact, I put the fear of God in my students. I told them, you realize when you turned it into Safe Assign, it knows it's an AI, copy from an AI. It doesn't know that, but the students don't know that either. So they're afraid to do it. That's just between us. All right, AI must be used to bypass learning goals. Yeah, you can use it in the sense of that, but again, just make sure you're transparent and letting your students understand exactly what they're using in the AI itself. Best practices for our students and for faculty. Discussion. Provide your students with an AI literacy resource. If you want them to use it in your classroom, then provide them with the content that they can use. I know ChatGPT is #1 on the list, but if you don't want them to use any other resources, then explain that to them. moral and ethical use of it, demonstrate exactly what they are using the AI for and how it can be violated in any and all classes. We have a colleague here, Jim Ellis, who actually does that in his class. And for psychology, he has them use AI and he tells them the difference of what they're learning and using the AI and also in the classroom for psychology. So with my class, yeah, we actually have a day of AI discussion, and I put it in quotation marks because it is. In my syllabus is the AI discussion. I put in a prompt and I say, okay, let's discuss what you'll be using in your project. How's this different than what I want you to do? So we have that discussion so that they can see what I really don't want them and why I don't want them to use it. Also, in this case, do the reflective activities or do some type of activities with them. Have students ask a lot of questions. Ask students to reflect on what they've learned and how the AI is being used or not being used properly. Again, our students are using it, especially during the pandemic, they used it. But some students do not know how to use it correctly. In fact, they don't even know how to put in the correct prompts for the class. And let me give you the example, my student who used AI for his project because he didn't put in the correct prompt. So the graphs and charts, which was a total of 4, the AI did exactly what the student told it to do. However, he didn't put in the parameters that I set originally. Let me give you an example. The student was doing a project on statistics of the different shoe sizes for males. Let me underline the word males. The AI did both female and male. Then the AI gave me a picture graph of candy bars. I'm like, how is this related to shoe size? Then the other graph, the circle graph, gave me a percentage of how many people actually wear size 7. I'm like, you said shoe sizes, so it only did size 7 for men and women. He's like, no. That represents all who wear size 7. Yeah, but your description was that you were doing shoe sizes for males wearing size 6 through 12. What happened to the other sizes? He's like, oh, well, maybe I just forgot. No, because when you prompted, the AI did exactly what you told it to do. Last but not least, he had to produce a bar graph. He gave me a column graph. He thought they were the same. Now, most of us may say, well, they are the same. They're not, because I gave him an example, exactly what I was looking for. But again, he programmed the AI, he prompted to do exactly what he wanted, not what I wanted. And he didn't answer some other questions as well too. Include some short writing prompts on how AI influences their thinking process. Again, Jim Ellis, wonderful instructor here in our psychology department, actually does that. I learned that and I said, you know what, I'm going to do that. Because I had a colleague, or we have a colleague, when I went to a presentation for Arizona, 2 writing instructors said the same thing. They said they just noticed the difference in the writing styles for their students. So some instructors are having them to do it in class, so they don't do it outside the classroom. Well, all of us are not English professors. We teach our disciplines because that's what we are masters in. We need to make sure that we're integrating some type of writing mechanism so that we can understand the difference in what our students are doing. Now, again, we're not going to be the experts, but we are the experts in saying, Tuan, you had misspells in the first one. Now the second one is really good. No, that doesn't happen overnight, especially when the assignment is back to back, 2 days apart from each other. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm using me and only me as an example. Here's some additional practices for you as faculty. Make sure that you are transparent with your students on how and why and when they can use AI. You also make sure that you clearly state within your syllabus the reasons why they can and the reasons why they cannot, but also make sure you state within your syllabus what would happen if they do. Again, our leaderships, which is our deans and associates deans, can only stand strong, and our chairpersons can only stand strong and firm with us if it's laid out in our syllabus exactly what we're telling our students and how they can utilize. But if you want to encourage them to use it, but not over encourage them, because like a speech class, you don't want the AI to just write the speech for them, but encourage them, because again, remember, we're dealing with a population of students that are not English proficient. So that'll be our students who are coming from our ESL programs. And for all of you who didn't know that, there are students who are coming directly from ESL level 6, I think, well, the highest level of ESL, and they're transitioning to the college level. They're still learning English. So the AI is going to really help them a little bit to understand some of the vocabulary that we use in our classrooms, to break it down so that they can understand it even better. And last, use it to just support diverse learning, because the fact that we have students do not learn the same way. We have students who are audio learners. They can hear everything, talk to you back and forth, not a problem. We have students in this case that are visual learners. They need to visualize everything. And when I say everything, if you say, oh, this person in automotive was the best person who designed cars, I don't know who you're talking about. So now you show them a picture. That's a visual learner. They need to see exactly what you're talking about. And then we have the textile learners who, they need to feel everything. They need to touch it, move it, and mainly in the math class. So they need to know exactly how that's associated. And again, we have individuals who are all types of learners and comply to each other. So we need to make sure that we're using some type of system to understand that, which goes back to our accessibility as well too. But make sure you encourage your students to use it, but also not overuse it, but give them guidelines. It's those safeguards that you have to put in place in your syllabus to make sure that our chairs, associate deans, and our deans can stand strongly behind us and saying, your professor said you are not allowed to do this. Well, I didn't know that. Read this. It's on page 3 in your syllabus. Also, well, minimize using AI. I know we just talked about using it, but don't overuse it, because our students, some of them overuse it a lot because they figure they're not going to get caught. So we have to set those guidelines and saying, yeah, you can, and it doesn't show your creativity. It shows the AI what they learned, or I should say what the AI learned. It doesn't show us what you learned. And stay informed and adaptive. There's a lot of changes that keep happening, not every day, but I'll say every day because that's what we use generally. But there's changes that's happening every day in AI. I love that I saw one that you saw the commercial for the Adobe AI for all of you, that you can put it in there and then the AI can go back and help modify your resume. And I'm like, oh my God, it's changing. It's constantly growing. Wonderful stuff. All right. Use AI as a learning tool, but not a shortcut. Make sure you underline that for our students. Do, excuse me, always use it at their risk. Think first before they do it. Have them think before they do it. And use my example, like, I want them to do this, but how do I expand on it? Be transparent with them exactly the rules and the guidelines that you're going to have in your course, and make sure that you emphasize it's your course, not a universal policy. Because a lot of times students will think, well, it happened in one class, I'll do it in the other class. Make sure you underline it's for your class. Have a checklist for all of you. Check AI ins and outs about it, because for all of you who don't know, if you never use AI, some AIs in this case have some discrepancies in them. I'm going to use our favorite, ChatGPT, because there's different versions. There's version 2, 3, 4. I think there's a 5 now. With different versions of AI for ChatGPT, let's start with the first one, version 2. It actually does have where you copy and paste the information from AI. It doesn't copy and paste it correctly. So the student may think, oh, okay, and then they turn it in, and they have squares and blocks and X's everywhere. And they was like, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, it came from an AI because it didn't copy correctly. Then you go to the version 3, a little bit better. If they bought it, even better, because they purchased it. So they can actually put a full document into a purchased AI and give them something back with corrections on it. Grammarly does the same thing. In fact, this is not something that students know. If you copy anything from ChatGPT and Grammarly, Grammarly already knows it came from ChatGPT. It's a code in the background that we don't see. For you to know, your students don't need to know that, so don't tell them. Respect the assignment guidelines. I love this because I told my students, and I emphasize this a lot, especially when I'm going over a project. It's my guidelines that I want you to follow, not an AI. Use AI to improve your writing, your skills. Yes, students can do that, but I tell them I also want to make sure your creativity comes flourishing out of. I also tell them to avoid overusing it as well too, especially over dependency of it, because a lot of students will think, well, I did it in my other class, I'm gonna do it in this class. And I'll use the example of my student for the summer. I know he was using AI in the math class, but he also used it in, and I'm just using an alias, computer science class. I said, okay, so he said, but yeah, my professor in my computer science class said it was okay. It's not okay in this class. He said, but he said you can use it everywhere. I said, your computer science instructor was wrong. You can't use it everywhere because I'm not allowing you to use it in this class. So his dependency was that it can happen in all his courses. Again, it is laid out in my syllabus, but I caught him when he was taking an exam, and so he couldn't use it. Also reflect on, tell your students to reflect on their AI use, because a lot of times in this case, they don't realize they're overusing it and they're not using it correctly. So we have to make sure we have guidelines to help them understand it. But like for my class, I also tell them have their own guidelines of using AI. So key things I want you to go away with, in this case for all of you, AI is a powerful learning tool. I've had 3 colleagues in the past told me that it's not a tool. I think it is a tool. It's like a calculator. It is like a speech therapist who helps you correct your speech. It reads to you. It will help you. It's a tool to help you understand what you don't know. And also it's a tool to break things down, especially when I had a student that English, it was their second language. And some of the vocabulary we talked about in the class, it was way over their head. In the class, they typed it in on their system to break it down, or they typed it in their system to bring it into their natural language so they can understand what I was talking about. Learning tool. Integrate AI ethically and transparently. Make sure that you're telling your students why they can and cannot use it, and be transparent with it in a sense that it is not just on the syllabus, but remind them about it. Again, our leaders in this case, our chairs, deans, and associate deans cannot protect us if we do not have this information, not only in our syllabus, but like for me, it's on their project. It's the same information. So they can't go back and say, well, he never said. It's here and here. And also when they turn in the project, it's even in the guidelines in Blackboard. Foster AI literacy for your students and for us as faculty. Get out there and learn as much as you possibly can about the different AIs that you may utilize within your classes. And maintain the academic integrity and human oversight. It is important for us to not just rely on AI as a learning tool, but it's important for us to make sure that we go back and check it itself. AI is a machine, and I'm gonna say the word machine. I know I can get in trouble for it, but think of it like a machine. Machines make mistakes. We need to go back and make sure those mistakes, in this case, can be rectified. And when I say that, when you have a student utilize it and they didn't use it correctly, go back and help them modify what they need to do, especially if they're using it in your class. But if not, still correct them. But then also stay within the academic integrity guidelines of that copy and paste. Again, most of our students do not feel that copy and paste from any AI is plagiarism. We need to make sure we underline and specify that it can be, not only in your course, but in other courses as well too, and for the institution. In the future of AI, make sure in this case that AI is learning as an enhancement of what we as humans are doing. And in fact, a conversation I had with my colleague who is your CT coordinator and saying that AI is learning. Anything that you put in there, it's learning from us. And it's going to continuously learn. So if you made a mistake, it's learning from that mistake. Your student make a mistake, it's learning from your student's mistake. And it's adding into the database. Later, as an introduction. Frank and I are going to be doing one next year to talk about the ethicals or the ethics behind using AI, because there are a lot of things that students and faculty do not know about that. This is just integrating into your syllabus to say exactly what you need to do and for you to understand how to use it in your syllabus, use it as a tool in your syllabus, and use it as a tool as your classroom. But there's the ethics behind it of saying, okay, here's the do's and the don'ts. Here's also some of the things that, like the data, putting things in that you're having your students like, oh, I'm gonna put my name in there. Don't. Why, professor? We don't want the AI to use that information based on Tuan Ding, because it's going to associate it to Tuan Ding. Every time it looks up something, it's going to say associated to Tuan Ding. Now, my name is out there and everywhere, and I don't even know about it. Because why? Because I put it in the system. There is Chatbox. We use that one. That's a wonderful AI that you can have your students chat with each other or chat to, or have them chat with you. Too much information in it, it records that information. And now it's now public domain. A lot of students don't know that. They figure they're creating these things just for fun. They don't realize it's recording all that personal data. Think of it like a GPS. All right. Ooh. It skipped the slide. So I will have this slide for all of you on this presentation for you, and also the resources. I'm not sure why it's not in there. Laura will be sending that out to all of you. Let's talk about any questions that you may have. Again, let me highlight that this was only how to use it in your syllabus and how you want to utilize it maybe in your course, but make sure that you highlight what you want your students to use it for and how you want your students to use it. And if you're not sure, do your due diligence and do your research before you put it in your syllabus. This is, again, as a credit to our leaders. That'll be our chairs, our associate deans, and our deans, and vice president, and president. Because sometimes it may skip and go all the way to the president. We need to have this information highlighted in our syllabus to say that we allow our students to use this. We allow our students to take part in learning from it. We allow our students to use it as a guide. We don't allow our students to copy and paste from it. And we don't allow our students to use it in the classroom. And we don't allow our students to do X, Y, and Z. Make sure you are highlighting everything you want your students to use the AI for and how it's going to be utilized in your course. And also, as a credit, make sure they understand that every instructor does the same thing. Questions? Yes, sir.
So I think there's a really important point you have up here on literacy for students and faculty. So a lot of the AI stuff was like coming out, and ChatGPT was coming out. Students are using this to write their essays, and it's just an abstract concept to a lot of us, I think, until you start to play with it, right? So, you know, putting something in your syllabus you haven't really thought about or tried to use it as a student would use it, I think that makes it difficult to write the policy, right? So once I started playing with it and see, okay, well, ChatGPT is going to spit out a pretty structured essay, right? And it's going to follow this kind of same structure. It's gotten a little better. It's a little more sophisticated if students are like writing parts of it and then piecing it together. But I think you have to like play with this stuff in order to understand how students might be using it and how to write some of that policy. So like if there's something that is happening in your classroom and you just have questions about it, just like go ask ChatGPT and be like, hey, I have a student that keeps coming late. How can I get that student to start coming more frequently, right? And like see what it spits back at you, and then have a conversation with that ChatGPT or that chat, because that's what the students are doing, right? They're putting things in and they're asking questions, but I think one of the things where they're really faltering is they don't know how to ask questions, right? So they're taking whatever your prompt is and they're copying and pasting that prompt, and they don't know how to ask questions, right? So like more ways that we can get them to think about what's my initial question, what should be my follow-up questions to chat, right? And how should I interact with it? So like this brainstorming idea, that sounds great to me, right? I'll put that in my syllabus because I don't really know how to do it until I start doing it and seeing like what it's giving me as feedback and how I'm using it, because then you can actually explain it to the students in a little bit more effective way. And I've seen, to your point, some of the assignments that I've seen are asking students to choose that, and they're giving them kind of more structured points to walk through like a conversation with a chat bot or a chat like ChatGPT, so that they can think of what's that initial question, how does it relate to the reading I did, how do I ask decent follow-ups, and how do I use this as a brainstorm, and then how do I reflect on it in an effective way so that I know how to use it moving forward.
You're right. For all of you, if you did know, I can't think of the name of it. I think of there's an AI called Script that, yeah, you can put in questions, and I'll use this in the sense of business. You can put in your resume, and it can generate questions that will be asked in an interview based on your resume. And I was like, ooh, this is really cool. And they have commercials, and the commercial will be a young man sitting in a chair, and the interviewer is throwing baseballs at him, and he's like, ducking, but then the name of the AI comes up, and he has a big glove. He's catching those baseballs because now he was prompt, in this case, what questions may happen in an interview. So yeah, AI can do that as well too, because I'm thinking, and to Michael's point, I think most of my students will probably do that, and I thought of that as well too. So I did that before my assignment was going to begin, because my assignment, and I'll use me, I actually tested 2 weeks before I give it to them, because I'm like, okay, I wrote all this stuff. Okay, now let me go back in and think of it as a student, what I probably missed. So like I said, and listening to my colleague Brent about his videos, I'm like, oh, I want to do that. So I went back and said, okay, what do I really want them to have in this video? So I will grade exactly what I'm looking for, what they've learned. So I went back and it's like, okay, okay, let me walk away from it, go back at it 2 weeks before I'm giving you a project, and I'm gonna use my Math 116 class because they got their project. They're creating a teaching video. And in that video, I told them this is exactly what I'm looking for, so that I knew exactly if they went to AI would say, okay, you can do this. Okay, but Tuan said he really wants me to talk this way and how to present the lesson. So the AI helped them, because I went back and did the same thing, like you said. I prompted to exactly what the student may say, so that I understand, it's like, let me change this. This is what I want. So thank you for that, Brent. Yes, ma'am.
So you referenced a couple of times a student that English is their second language.
Mm-hmm.
I teach the respiratory care program, and there's a lot of medical terminology in there and physiology, and that's like foreign language,
Mm-hmm.
and for them I can present it, and maybe they don't completely understand everything that I talked about, and so they can put it into ChatGPT or whatever they decide to use, and have it break it down. And then maybe they get this concept, but I still don't get this part. Break that down, simplify it for me more. Give me examples, and I actually tell my students to use it to prepare for exams. Like, give me examples of pulmonary function tests for restrictive disease. And then they have to look at the values and determine what the pattern is, and then ask for an answer key, so that they can quiz themselves and be prepared.
I would like to just add one thing. Make sure if it's highlighted in your syllabus. So if a student says or use it and they come back and say, well, she never said I couldn't. That's the only thing. Because I'm thinking of Michael, who's here for all of you, if you didn't know, and I'm sorry to put you in the spotlight. He is our Associate Dean for Liberal Arts and Sciences. So I'm thinking if he was the person, if the student goes to and it's like, I'm going to a dean, and the first thing he's going to say, where's your syllabus for the class? Did your instructor X, Y, and Z? If it's not highlighted, that's his job in saying, well, I can see what your point is. Then I'm guessing, Michael can correct me, he's going to talk to you because it's not highlighted in your syllabus. So it puts them in a position now they have to defend you or not defend you, but they see the student's point of view as well too. So I just say, just to make sure it's highlighted. So if you're letting them use it, it's wonderful, it's great, because you're right. There's individuals in math, because I teach mathematics, some terms they're like, ugh, I'm not, and they'll come to me afterwards, Professor, English is my second, I had no idea what you were talking about, because we may use idioms and we may use slang that we think is universal, everyone in class, and sometimes some people just don't understand it. And now you're trying to break it down to them, and it's like, I still don't understand. Oh, this is what you're talking. So like you're saying as well too. So in that, they use it as a learning tool, But if it's utilizing in the sense that in the classroom, just to be on the safeguard for yourself, just highlight it in your syllabus saying, yes, you will be allowed to use ChatGPT or any AI tool as a learning device to break down vocabulary solely for learning purposes in the classroom, not for exams or quizzes. So it helps his job to say, yes, your professor highlighted right here. You could not use it on the test. Well, I didn't know that. Well, it says right here. It's in big, bold letters. So, but that was, I like it because you're right, I do the same thing for individuals in this case. So I like that it can, because before, for all of you, I'm not sure about you, but it was used to take a while and try to explain. It's like, okay, I speak Spanish, okay, but they're not speaking Spanish. I don't speak Lithuanian. I don't know how to explain it. So like, and then you're like, in your head, you want to like just yell it, and you're like, yelling is not going to help them understand it. And then you're trying to find another way to explain it, and they're still not understanding. So now they have to have someone come into class, translate for you. And so AI does a wonderful job now so that they can still be part of the class as well too. Yes, Michael.
I don't know.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Any questions, comments? Because we have an array of different disciplines, so we're all using it differently in our courses. Wait, Laura, did someone ask a question online?
No, it was Joe saying you had to go and teach class.
Oh, okay. Bye, Joe. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Again, I'll get this out to Laura. I'm not sure why the references didn't show up. I think there was only 3 or 2. But I'll get this out. She'll get it out to all of you. I appreciate all of you and everything that you do. And not only do I appreciate you coming to my presentation and talking about how AI is used, I appreciate you and all your disciplines and what we do for our students. And my closing, like I do with my students, thank you, angels. Have a great day.